This brings us to part 3, Hunt the Dark Knight, which begins with Bruce pretending to be a homeless old woman in a store being held up by this Nazi boob lady whom some of you may recall showing up later in Asbar. Thief! You're a thief! 7-Eleven sells this for $2.50! This isn't even him secretly trying to fight crime. Bruce just hates it when Alfred asks him to do the grocery shopping and wants the freedom to rant and rave in public without being recognized. Well, Nazi boob lady, whose name is Bruno, and also has swastikas on her ass cheeks when we see from behind she's either wearing weird pants or just chaps, flees, we get a montage of news reports indicating Superman is in Gotham and dealing with a few problems before wrapping up Bruno and telling Bruce they need to talk. Bruce is pissed about this intrusion and says they'll talk tomorrow. He's irritated because Bruno works for the Joker, for some reason, and he was trying to find out what Joker had planned for an upcoming TV appearance that Dr. Walper arranged. But now that plan's out. We get some various shenanigans, like a weird talking doll slash robot slash remote voice thing that blows up, before we finally see Superman properly for the first time, standing on some rocks and posing for a romance novel cover. There's just the sun and the sky and him, like he's the only reason it's all here. Then he ruins everything by talking. Bruce, do you ever feel, not so fresh? Clark tries to get him to see that he needs to slow down his campaign against crime, either for his own health benefit, or because he's worrying people to the point where he may be ordered to bring him in. When that happens, Clark, may the best man win. Which will be me, because I am the night, and you are powered by the sun, and the sun is not around at night. Checkmate! Or mahjong. 1, that doesn't make any sense. 2, moonlight is just sunlight reflecting off of its surface. I'm still powered by the sun at night. I hate you, Clark. Yeah, Frank Miller believed that Superman and Batman would normally not get along at all given their different outlooks and methodologies, a decision that has influenced every single time a story tells of their first meeting. I kind of see it as more bat-dickery, but I suppose it does make sense to a degree since Batman knows full well what power in the wrong hands can do. As Superman destroys some Soviet jets, without even a token indication that the pilots ejected, so yay, Superman murderer. He narrates about how humanity became distrustful of superheroes over time, and most either retired or left Earth. Diana went back to her people. And then in the sequel, we got together and started banging. Unless you count Asbar as in continuity, in which case we were always banging. And humanity was always distrustful of us. Asbar is bad. Commissioner Yindel is not stupid and doesn't buy Joker being reformed any more than Batman does, so she gets police set up at the TV station ready to take both Joker and Batman, figuring Bats will show up, and he does. And easily evades the cops, though he admits it's getting harder for him. And yeah, the TV interview also goes exactly as expected. Joker admits he's gonna kill everyone in the room during the talk show, then proceeds to do just that, gassing the whole crowd, including Dr. Walper, and escaping. He goes to Selina Kyle, who now runs an escort service. Again, this is early Frank Miller, so his quirks as a writer hadn't all taken effect yet. Thus, in this story, we actually have some female characters who aren't prostitutes! But he still had Selina being the boss of some. No, he saved her actually becoming one for Batman Year 1. He wants one of Selina's girls to use poisons to drive a congressman client nuts and kill them, while in the meantime, the sons of Batman apparently chopped off a shoplifter's hands. I don't think we ever see Batman accost them for this. Upon learning of Selina's role in the murder, Batman heads over to her apartment to investigate, and we get more of Superman narrating about how crappy Batman was about the government, and parents groups, apparently, coming down hard on superheroes. Sure, we're criminals, you said. We've always been criminals. We have to be criminals. I criticized this line when Superman reiterated it in The Dark Knight Strikes Again, and I'm criticizing it again here, in addition to it being dumb because of Bruce's whole criminals are a superstitious cowardly lot bit. It's also dumb because it's factually inaccurate in universe. Up until Yindel became the commissioner, Batman's activities were basically sanctioned by the law. In the wider DC universe beforehand, superheroes had their own legal method by which they were recognized, could offer testimony, and be legally able to bring in criminals. And even if we restricted it to just Batman, when the police station is a big-ass signal light in the sky summoning him for help, I think describing yourself as a criminal is a bit of a stretch. Maybe it means that superheroes have to function outside of the law in order to do their jobs properly, but Batman's actions in this story sometimes have put innocent people on the line. And as I pointed out, he's not doing anything to stop the people chopping off limbs in his name, and yet he's going to organize those same people into an army on his side later. Hell, Superman's ranting about this while he himself is working for the government. Sure, he's not allowed to do it out in the open in the streets like in Gotham, but during these shots he's fighting tanks and, presumably, saving more people from dying in combat on behalf of the government, and thus is not a criminal! The point in some of those brief vignettes is supposed to be that ordinary citizens are no different than Batman. You just have to be willing to oppose evil yourself. You don't have to wear a bat mask to do it. Then again, some of those vignettes apparently blame Batman for people being horrible as well, so is Frank criticizing that too? And superheroes are criminals? Whatever. He finds Selina, who's been dressed up like Wonder Woman and clearly tortured. She warns him about how the Joker is worse than ever and plans to do something at the county fair. As he evades the police, Batman also radios Yindel and warns her that the governor's life is also in danger. Another of Selina's escorts is with him. And that he needs her to save him since he doesn't have time to, what with the county fair thing and all. They arrive after the Joker has already poisoned a bunch of Cub Scouts with deadly cotton candy and is setting up a bomb on a roller coaster. Batman thinks about how much he'd love to kill the Joker, staying up at night and planning every possibility in his head. From the beginning, I knew that there's nothing wrong with you that I can't fix with my hands. As a licensed massage therapist, I could cure your homicidal insanity if you just let me! Batman gets a batarang into the Joker's eye while Robin takes on one of the Joker's goons on the roller coaster. Bats and Joker head into the Tunnel of Love, and at some point Batman was either shot or stabbed or something in his side. I kept looking for the panel where it happened, and I can't find it. And in their struggle, Joker stabs him in the other side, and I start to wonder if Frank just accidentally put that in early and they just never noticed it. But yeah, it comes across like Batman is ready to kill him, a thing that's debated about constantly. But no, Bruce just cracks his neck in a way as to paralyze the Joker below the neck, much to the Joker's own irritation. I'm really very disappointed with you, my sweet. Oh, yeah, Joker calls Batman darling once or twice, plus with him applying lipstick and a bit of queer coding, that comes across as Frank positioning quote-unquote gay behavior and attitudes in association with evil and madness. That's a whole other pile of worms, except to say Frank Miller has a history with that, and pop culture still has a problem with doing stuff like that, so he's not alone there. Anyway, yeah, the Joker is mad that even after all this, Batman doesn't have the nerve to kill him. As a last desperate act to get vengeance on Batman, since they hear the police coming, the Joker twists his own head enough to kill himself, making it look like Batman did it, and ending issue 3. As with lots of things with this book, there's controversy around this. Some interpreting that Batman did kill the Joker here, either unintentionally or not. It's not helped by the fact that when Joker speaks during this sequence, his speech balloons use the same coloring as Batman, implying that the Joker killing himself was just a fabrication in his mind. Personally, I don't believe that's the case. Despite my snark about Frank's Batman not living up to his good and pure a hero as any quote that he's made, ultimately, Frank recognizes that Batman killing is a line that he must not cross, that it's completely against Batman's character and moral code, and that going past that would justify every terrible thing his opponents in this book say about him. In addition, the book never calls out Batman for doing this. Some line of dialogue saying, "You're deluding yourself into thinking you didn't kill anyone," or implying that he's making up a different reality to cope with horrible things he's done or anything like that. If he really has killed, at that point he stops being Batman and just becomes the Punisher in a silly hat. And thus we reach the final part. The Dark Knight falls. The police find the Joker's body, and the cop who looks at it indicates it's no suicide, but they really can't get someone to autopsy it for confirmation there, because Batman set some firebombs or something on it so he can make his escape. They manage to get away, and murder is added to the charges against Batman. Things getting worse with the Sons of Batman as one kills a splinter group of the mutants called the Nixons, who all dress up in Nixon masks. But in turn also cut off the fingers of the cashier they were threatening because the cashier didn't fight back. Oh, and the Cold War tension that's been going on in the background, with Superman fighting the Soviets over the fictional island Corto Maltese, comes to a head with the Soviets launching a nuke that Superman has to stop. Thanks for the data, Dan, but we'll all know soon enough what it can do. Right now, we've got author Harlan Ellison in the studio. What is wrong with you idiots? I'm a writer! Why are you interviewing me instead of reporting on the goddamn nuke? Also, you haven't paid me yet to be here, and until the check clears, I'm just gonna sit here and insult you some more. Then, when the check clears, I'll insult you a slightly smaller amount. The nuke is massively powerful, but Superman is able to redirect it so that it detonates in a desert instead. Unfortunately, the EMP it generates is strong enough to knock out electricity even as far as Gotham. As Bruce recovers in the Batcave and learns of the EMP, he grumbles to himself that this is a special kind of nuke that both sides in the Cold War have been trying to develop. Something that could devastate the environment while still leaving industrial sites in good standing, because capitalism and greed and assholery.
Clark, you idiot! You let them do it! I always knew you would!
And now this dialogue right here is rather fascist, because it implies that Superman should have taken over the world to prevent this sort of thing from happening, similar to remarks he'd make about Green Lantern's ring and Aspar. When, of course, we all know that if Superman ever did actually try this, that Batman would be the first person in line to organize a resistance against him, in any continuity. The blackout, of course, affected everything. Planes in the air that start to crash down, the Batcave's own emergency generators. Yeah, everything has gone to hell. As such, Batman and Robin head out on horseback to the Sons of Batman, who plan to finally march on the town and purge it of criminals their way. Batman arrives and takes the gun from the guy's hand, clearly the same guy who killed the Nixons, not that they acknowledge that, and snaps it in half.
This is the weapon of the enemy! We do not need it! We will not use it! My weapons are small projectiles shaped like bats, or high-tech tanks that shoot rubber bullets. Totally not guns. Our weapons are quiet, precise. I have to shoot these guns to save your life! Punk is nothing but death. And crime, and the rage of a beast. How do you get your thong to stay in place so well? Mine keeps shifting around uncomfortably. Pigs from a gun. Well, put it on. At least they sent beta and not VHS. Has anyone seen the Joker? And don't touch my cape. Ever. Nobody touches my cape. Only one compartment on his belt. Noob. This game is stupid! I'm not wearing hockey pads! As your therapist, I think your anxiety is based around disappointing your parents.
A deadly bee weapon.
That would really slow me down if it weren't for OnStar. I am the world's greatest detective! Ah! In time, I will teach them to you. Tonight, you will rely on your fists. And your brains. Hit people with your brain as much as possible. It is both quiet and precise. Tonight, we are the law. Tonight, I am the law. I am the law.
And thus Batman leads the charge, I guess he had just dozens of horses ready for this, of using the cult to reestablish order. Not just against criminals, but inspiring people to smash open fire hydrants to help deal with fires, form bucket lines, provide comfort and aid to the injured, etc. And even Yandel, recalling Gordon's words to her, says the police can't step in to stop them, that he's just too big. Which, yeah, I get what she's saying, but it's kind of accurate for the art too. Batman's been ballooning throughout this story so that he's almost as meaty as a Rob Liefeld character. Superman survived the nuclear blast, just barely, narrating how much he can't believe that Bruce would laugh off humanity's efforts to curb their power when they're capable of something like this. A nuclear weapon that's reduced him to a shriveled husk that only survives because he's able to absorb some light from a sunflower. Somehow. Meanwhile, panicked mobs have started up in Gotham, and there's rioting and violence, and only Batman and the former mutants are there to get people organized and not killing each other. It works, and we get some good bits of inspiring decency as well as inhumanity. Not all of it necessarily because of Batman, but he plays a part. And honestly, this serves as a better source of hope about the character than a lot of the other violent actions from earlier about fighting crime or anything. Superheroes should inspire people to be better. The nuke was called a cold bringer, designed to create the effects of a full-scale nuclear war, and that the weather patterns have sent enough soot into the atmosphere for a black cloud to cover the Americas and induce a nuclear winter. The entire country's in a panic and having similar problems as Gotham had, and the keyword being had, since Gotham, under Batman's leadership and the efforts of the Sons of Batman, have been able to keep things safe and under control. Looters are apparently the big issue across the country during a nuclear winter. In light of this, it's clear that the government is not happy about Batman's activities. Thus, a recovered Superman sends a message to him asking where their battle will be. Bruce choosing Crime Alley. The area is cleared out by the military, and Bruce tests him a bit first, just to see if he's at full power after the nuke. And indeed, Clark has been weakened and isn't as fast as he should be. Alfred sets the self-destruct in the Batcave while Superman opens up the Batmo tank and tells Robin to go home. Thus the battle begins.
More wind. Now he's talking, trying to reason with me. I can't hear him, of course. No, my ears are protected.
Bruce, I've thought it over, and I've decided to join forces with you. Together we can... Wait, why are you attacking me? Batman grumbles about how much he hates Clark, exaggerating him as always saying yes to a badge or a flag while he unleashes sonic weapons, using the city's power grid to give him enough energy for his bulky suit to punch Superman, yada yada. It's not helped by Bruce's internal monologue.
You sold us out, Clark. You gave them the power that should have been ours, just like your parents taught you to. Damn farmers always giving up power. My parents taught me a different lesson. That rock and roll was the enemy of all mankind. Lying on the street, shaking in deep shock, dying for no reason at all. They showed me that the world only makes sense when you force it to.
Spoken like a pessimistic autocrat. Or like a Justice Lord, really, for those who like the Timverse.
It's way past time you learned what it means to be a man.
That's where you're wrong, Bruce. I am a man!
Ow! Clark, that's not how that works! Being a man means getting punched in the face by a rich guy!
Green Arrow, who had shown up a little bit ago and had also retired, apparently Superman cut off his arm, sure, whatever, comes in and shoots an arrow with artificial kryptonite in it at Superman, weakening him enough for Batman to resume the fight.
We could have changed the world! Now, look at us! I've become a political liability, and you're a joke!
The dude took a nuke to the face in order to save lives. Up yours, Bat Dick.
I want you to remember, Clark, in all the years to come, in your most private moments, I want you to remember my hand at your throat. I want you to remember the one man who beat you.
I mean, technically, the US government already beat him, and you still needed help from others in order to accomplish this. What does it friggin' matter? God, this is the point where Miller's Batman became such a petulant child, caring about who beat who. Anyway, Mr. I Beat You has a heart attack and dies. It's been hinted throughout the entire story that Bruce's heart has been weakening, made no better by the constant abuse in the story and this power armor he built to try to fight Superman. At Wayne Manor, Alfred watches the place go up in flames, another part of the self-destruct, and he subsequently dies from a stroke, barely having played a part in any of this, and we never learn how Bruce reacts to the loss of his father figure. Anyway, the nuclear winter cloud begins to fade, and Bruce Wayne's identity as Batman is revealed to the world, though we also learn that his fortune has been emptied and his stock sold. At his funeral, the last two to leave are Clark Kent and Carrie Kelly. And of course, we see that the timing for Bruce's plan wasn't precise enough. He's not actually dead, his heart beginning to beat in the grave again. Clark hears it and just winks at Carrie. And so our comic ends with Bruce having taken something Oliver told him to heart. The need to be much quieter in the future about their activities if they're going to continue his work. The Sons of Batman gather with Bruce and Robin in a cave as they begin training, studying, and planning.
It begins here, an army to bring sense to a world plagued by worse than thieves and murderers.
Oh, goody, he's forming a militia group. That's so much better.
This will be a good life. Good enough. As long as there aren't any terrible or just okay sequels anyway.
So, The Dark Knight Returns, this comic. It's not great, but I don't think it sucks, nor is it worthless. The ending to the story changed as Frank was writing it. In the 10th anniversary edition, Miller says that originally Batman would have had a legit heart attack and be taken into custody, where a government agent wants to recruit Batman, but instead he fakes his own death like in the finished version and escapes to a literal friggin' throne with the Sons of Batman in military formation at his beck and call. Yeesh. I may think the published ending is a little worrisome, but that's mask off right there when he has an actual frickin' throne. I have heard it rumored that Frank changed the final issue's plot because of Watchmen, but I haven't been able to find anything to substantiate that, and the timeline doesn't match up anyway when the first issue of Watchmen didn't get released until months after The Dark Knight Returns. But yeah, let's talk about this work. It's interesting looking back on it this many years later. It held the reputation of countering the image of Batman as a campy 60s TV show character for the wider world outside of regular comic readers, and influenced filmmakers to do their own dark Batman movies. But nowadays, what's funny is how 30 years of darkness have made people realize, hey, Batman can be many things. And really, what's so bad about him being campy or goofy or funny sometimes? Sometimes he's the guy providing comfort to a child because he doesn't want them to be scared. Sometimes he holds criminals up in the air to get them to tell him what he wants to know. Sometimes he's on the Justice League satellite fending off an alien invasion. Sometimes he's a detective investigating a bizarre mystery. Sometimes he dances the Batusi and fights Roddy McDowell, who's making book puns. It's all still Batman, even in the stories that we don't like or find him as unrecognizable from other iterations. And it's one of the things that makes The Dark Knight Returns kind of fascinating, because a lot of the time, it doesn't really feel like what we would traditionally think of as a Batman story. It's not about Bruce's parental issues, it's not a mystery story where Bruce is a detective, it's not about trying to find humanity in dark and broken places, it's not even really about creating a newfound family. The closest it gets is the one-man war on crime kind of idea, that the police are so corrupt or inept that they can't stop the massive amount of crime in Gotham. But that ends at issue 3 and seems to be more about some kind of revolution. Frank Miller said in the introduction that he had wanted to do a story about Batman's final case, but what final case? He uses his traditional tactics to find Two-Face, he beats up the mutant leader, the Joker kills himself to frame Batman, which doesn't even seem to affect anything, and finally, he beats up Superman and lives to fight another day. And like I said, there's no set definition of what a Batman story has to be. The character has existed for almost 100 years, and his attitude, relationship, rogues gallery, and personality have been refined and altered so much over that time that what a Batman story is can have many, many different interpretations. But I just find it weird that for a story that's called The Dark Knight Returns, and that for so many years was celebrated as the reintroduction of the character to a darker, more serious bent, that this is not really a reconstruction of Batman, a back to basics, or anything that emphasizes what it is about the character that makes people want to come back to him after almost 100 years. Batman content in general does better on my channel than pretty much anything else save for History of Power Rangers. There's something compelling for people that makes them want to see more, good and bad. The ongoing debate in the Talking Heads segment seems to be that form of deconstruction, questioning Batman's existence and his copycats and followers. But it doesn't go anywhere, no real conclusion to the argument. We're inherently supposed to be on Batman's side because he's the hero and everyone questioning him is a fool or a villain. And for a book about Batman, there is way, way too much complaining and commentary on things that annoy Frank in this. Hell, there's a bit where Gordon complains about his wife wanting vegetarian beans and that he needs a cigar.
That's totally inapplicable to anything that's going on here. And it's dumb.
Just little bits like that where he expresses annoyance at any faction of society that he doesn't approve of and wants to satirize. The book is both frustrating and inspiring, peppered with moments of brilliance both for artwork and story, yet at the same time glorifying a somewhat more meat-headed Batman, who solves all his problems with violence and rarely shows the humanity that makes him any different from a gun-toting vigilante. Hell, he even wields guns at some point, despite nowadays it's become such a crucial aspect of his character just how much he hates guns. But perhaps that is the message of The Dark Knight Returns. Beyond any kind of fascistic messages or commentary about 1980s culture that Frank hated, or political messaging about the Cold War, or even whether Batman's methods are effective or not. He's just too big. He's bigger than anything like that. Time marches on, and who Batman is might change, but he's still Batman. Frank Miller wanted a story where Batman was older than he was. But of course, Frank Miller is now an old man, and Batman has remained more or less young and timeless. The character is just something unique and special, and he will always return. But some things we have to say farewell to. Today's episode marks the final time that Dr. Crafty will be doing regular title cards for me on this show. He's working on his own YouTube stuff nowadays, and I encourage you to check him out. In 2009, while I was on Tigwatig, he offered to start doing the cards, and he's been doing them since then, starting with the Secret Defenders number 9 review. He's been an invaluable part of this show, providing artwork not just for the title cards, but for the DVDs, for Late Night Double Feature, the logo for Long Box of the Damned, for the t-shirts both on Shark Robot and Teespring. His art has ranged from the safe and simple to the slightly scandalous, to the obscure references to British TV shows that he's seen that I have no idea what the hell he's referring to. Other times I've known what he's referring to, but the connection to the comic is abstract as all hell. But at the same time, they're memorable and grand. Hell, when I was putting together the theme song for the 300th episode, it featured all of his title cards, and he was even willing to go back and draw cards for the episodes he hadn't done before his first, filling in any other blanks for stuff he had missed out on. Everyone, please wish him a fond farewell and success with his future endeavors. Good on you, man, and thanks for everything. And after a big episode like this, we'll be taking a break so Clive Sinclair can do some more of his shenanigans on Late Night Double Feature. And a week after that, something less well-drawn and written. It's another issue of Ultimate Power. And regardless of what you feel about The Dark Knight Returns, it's definitely a step down.
Gotta love 'em.
Hello my friends, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon or purchase a t-shirt via Teespring or Shark Robot. Thanks for watching!